and welcome to another episode of Geeks Who Like Sports, episode 59. As always, I am Ray Carcillo in Los Angeles, California, joined by my best friend in the entire world over in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Lee Elias. Lee, how are you doing today?
Well, Ray, today's date is Sunday, May 31st, 2020. That's an interesting question to be asking today because there's a lot going on in the world right now. And we would be remiss if we didn't start the show by acknowledging it because, my thought was this, and we talked about it before the show, was that sports and entertainment, comic books and geekdom has always been our escape, part of escapism from the real world. And we're going to conduct this show in that way as well. And 95% of the show is going to be about sports and geekdom and entertainment today. Yeah. But we wanted to come on, again, we talked about this before the show, acknowledge that there's a lot going on in the country right now. Cities are on fire, and there's a lot of unrest. And Ray and I both wanted to say, and I'll let you say it as well, that we want to say to the African-American community and the minority community that we stand with you and we hear you, and that even though we know we're two white guys doing a geek podcast, we had to acknowledge that, and we would have been remiss if we didn't. This show is not going to be our personal platform to voice how we feel in a grand sense, but we wanted to acknowledge that to start the show.
Yeah, yeah, I mean it's a horrible thing that happened that triggered all of this, and it's been so distraught. I've been so distraught that I didn't even play video games today. That's how distraught I've been. And I mean, half joking but half seriously, for me to not want to, which for me, video games are my escape for me to crawl into, but to me not to want to do any of that shows you how serious this is in a way, because it is. Like Lee said, we're not living in a bubble here, and these are discussions that really have needed to be happening for many years, generations really, and it's something that because of a lack of communication, this has gotten only worse. It's become systemic, and we stand with all our black friends and all black people, and Black Lives Matter, and it's just very it's very disheartening. I mean, and Cory Booker said something very poignant this week, and I'll just say this, is that if you love America, it's going to somehow find a way to break your heart, because there are things like this where we don't necessarily always live up to our ideals, and we don't live up to the standards that we sometimes hold other countries to, and this is an example of it. And hopefully that when things finally do settle down, that we are able to sit down at the table together and have the conversations that need to be had to end this seemingly unending destruction of the African American community by the powers that be on a regular basis. And I'm like Lee said, this isn't the platform to talk about it. I'm happy to talk about it personally with people, but it's a it's a terrible thing, and we understand the violence that's happening and the rioting. It is a reaction to the violence that has been put upon the African American community for years and years and years, and finally, possibly also with the COVID-19 acting as a bit of a turning up the temperature a little bit, it's finally reached a boiling point that has affected every major city in the country, from LA to Seattle to Miami to Washington, D.C. to New York to Philly to Salt Lake City to Denver, everywhere. Minneapolis, of course, the center of all this. And it's just, we stand with you. We stand with all of you. We there's a saying in show business, obviously the show must go on, and that's why we are here, and that's why we're doing this. But know that we stand with you, and that we feel your pain, and we are, or try to. We'll never, again, like Lee said, we're two white guys. We'll never truly comprehend or be able to completely understand everything that has been gone on over these past decades, but we are with you. And yeah,
there are many other people too. I want to make sure we say that this is the first time in my life, taken too long, but this is the first time in my life that I've seen almost unanimous agreement upon all races, all people, all genders, that this is not okay anymore. And not that there's silver linings, not a word I like to use in situations like this, but I do see unity out there. It's just tough to see right now through the flames, but I do see it. And as Ray said, we stand with you. We wanted to say that publicly before we got into the show. And, we're not going to ever say anything like, if you don't agree with me, unfollow us, because that's not conducive to conversation. If you don't agree with us, message us and we'll have a conversation. But we had to start the show this way.
Yes, and it's even like Reverend Al Sharpton said this week. He said, of course, very bad, but like if the unfortunate death of George Floyd is the catalyst that finally brings about true change, then it would have been, at least he would have died for something. And I think that's something to strive for. And this has been happening our whole lives. I put on Facebook, I remember when Amadou Diallo was shot in New York City in 1999 with 4 officers. He pulled out his wallet to get his identification, and they shot him 19. They shot at him 40 plus times, but 19 hit, and those cops were let off the hook. And you can't ever say to me that again, we didn't have the body cams or the cameras that we have now, but cops are not above the law. No one is above the law. The law is, the cops enforce the law, but the law applies to everyone. No one is above the law. Not the president, not the custodian at the high school, not a cop, not a firefighter, not a military person. Nobody is above the law. It is what makes us the best country in the world, and it is something that needs to be upheld, and it's about time that the double standard is done with. So on that said, we are going to move on now into our regular show.
Yay! All right, yeah. Sports, entertainment. Now that we're done with that. Sorry, I hate to be the icebreaker.
No,
look, this is meant to be a distraction. Let's make it be a distraction.
Yes. Yeah. We could continue with this with Roger Goodell putting out the callous statement that he put out earlier this week about I shouldn't say callous statement. It was the right statement to be made, but it seems hypocritical after his treatment of Colin Kaepernick. And protesting about how people need to come together and to quell the riots, and we need to be better as a country. And yet, obviously, the NFL, their treatment of Colin Kaepernick makes him look as hypocritical as ever. So that is a sort of a sports beat that can help us transition out of this.
That was Lee, like a jet crashing, but that's okay.
It's just... Oh, goodness.
Sorry, buddy. There was no easy way to transition that segment. It's just... Boom! Here we go into sports, entertainment, and comic book and geekdom. Welcome to Geeks Who Like Sports. I'm Lee Elias in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, with my co-host Ray Carcillo over in Los Angeles. Ray, how you doing today?
I'm all right, buddy. I'm all right. But yeah, so look, there's a lot going on
today.
We do have a great show for you now that we've now that we have and again,
thank you for listening.
Yeah,
thank you for listening to that if you're listening.
Yes, no, we do appreciate it, and we want to hear from you. We want to hear your comments. Like Lee said, we don't want you guys to just unfollow. We want a conversation to be had, but we do stand with the Black community on this matter. That said, we now going into sports. The NBA. If you want to listen to what Lee's thoughts about the NHL, first off, by the way, Lee did a whole hour episode on Puck Drop Live about the NHL is basically back. They've solidified the 24-team playoff. That is happening. The NBA quickly followed suit and basically said, although they didn't give a format, they said July 31st is their target date to return. The Walt Disney World plan seems to be, again, not officially ratified, but seems to be the way they are going forward. And baseball, meanwhile, is still an absolute abhorrent mess, and it seems less and less likely we're going to have baseball this year.
Which would be devastating to baseball, not just that. I mean, let's just talk about – I know you're transitioning. Let's just talk about this real quick. Before we even get into MLB, all right, most minor league teams have fired or let go all of their players over the last week. Now, why this is devastating – is baseball financially cannot sustain itself. We all know that minor league clubs are not really super based on revenue. A whole generation of minor league baseball players lost their jobs this week due to there not being baseball being played. So right off the bat, baseball's taken a major, major hit. This is different than what we talked about with the consolidation of minor league baseball. These are people now out of work and a lot of talent out of work that are going to have to somehow maintain themselves. Then that trickles all the way up to the MLB, whose owners and players association just cannot come to a common sense middle ground, which is really pissing me off because it's like everyone in that conversation is coming across as elitist. Although and this is rare, I'm actually siding with the players a bit on this one because I think the owners are being a little unreasonable
at this point.
But everyone looks bad. Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's so obvious that it's just you're playing this many games, we'll pay you for this many games.
Yeah.
Period. I mean, I don't know why that is such a hard concept to come by. I do understand the loss of money with there not being fans, but from a business standpoint, you have to eat that so your sport can survive. Right. And the reason why I'm saying that with confidence is because the NHL is doing it, the NBA is willing to do it, the NFL will do it, albeit the NFL has the best broadcast contract of them all, to be fair to the other ones. Yeah. All right, but you can't afford another lockout right now. Yeah. Baseball, what the hell are you doing? We need you. And let's just rewind back. Not even that long ago. It just seems like a long time ago with the Astros controversy. You need to start playing baseball as soon as humanly possible. So figure it out. There is no time for this right now. Figure it out. You look like a-holes, all of you. We need you. Figure it out. I'm Lee Elias, and I approve this message.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. So what ended up happening was that the baseball owners are like, we want to pay you all prorated salaries. You get paid for the games you play. The players complain. Finally, they gave in. Then the owners came back. Oh, you capitulated? Okay, well now we want to pay you even less because now we're losing money on the gate. We're losing money on TV contracts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Oh. And now the players are like, no, we agreed to your original demands. Stick with what your original demands are. The fact that the owners are now going back on this just shows, and again, it's also very frustrating because it's millionaires fighting with billionaires, and again, the fans are the ones who suffer. But in this case, like Lee said, we've now gone over to the player side because now they did capitulate to the demands, and now the owners are they're Darth Vader. They're trying to change the terms of the contract.
Join me, and together we can play baseball as owners and players. I'll never join you.
I'm altering the terms of the deal. Hope I do not alter them first.
Yeah.
It's like, no.
Feelings. Baseball knows it to be true. That's not possible. No. Listen, it's a crap show. And the thing is that, I've been asked about this. It's like, well, what about teams like the Marlins? So I'm like, well, I don't have much sympathy for the Marlins to begin with. But there's this thing called revenue sharing. And you have to remember that while there are 30 baseball teams and they all have their own little business, Major League Baseball is the overarching business. And if that doesn't survive, there is no baseball team. So revenue share, figure it out. I know it's complicated. I don't care. Figure it out. Yeah. Okay? Like, this is stupid what's happening right now. You cannot afford this, and you know it. And with that said, I do think they will hit a deal. I do think they will find common ground, and I think we will see baseball. Because if they don't, I'm not going to lie to you, man. I'm done. I'm not going back again. All right? Yep. Fool me once, fool me twice, fool me 37 times. Shame on me.
Yeah, no, it's sickening. It's like Lee said, it's kind of elitist on both sides, and it's kind of at this point, you know what? The sad thing is that, what might open the door. This might open the door for this is with sports now possibly being pushed back further into the summer, like basketball and hockey. Baseball's biggest appeal for a lot of people was the fact that, at least during the summer, it is really the only thing going on. Yeah, but should basketball and baseball now extend until August next year, and then we get football back in September, we don't need baseball anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Here's another idea. We need, ready for this? We need the XLB. the Extreme Baseball League, XBL. That's what I would call it. All right, it's time for Vince McMahon to step up to the table. And here's the deal: if you get caught cheating, you have a buzzer. Well, Triple H comes out and just gives you a finisher move right there at home plate.
Pedigree,
That's it.
right there,
Done.
man.
Yeah, pedigree. All right. Or can you imagine like there's Altuve's out there, and all of a sudden, if you smell, boom! It's just
And
the
he
glass
gets hit with a head
shatters
with a
and
trash
Stone
can by
Cold
Mick
comes out.
Foley.
Yeah. Dreams could come true. Anyway, yes. Speaking of extreme sports, something that I want to talk about is the XFL.
Yes.
Because the XFL apparently has some suitors that are interested in the teams, and interested in the league. And it came to our attention that, surprise, surprise, hold on, someone's at my door. What's that? Oh, hi, everybody. It's me, Mickey Mouse. Hey, want to play in the Extreme Football League? Well, all right.
Yeah.
It's sounding like Disney's interested. Now, I'm guessing this is a side effect of Disney also interested in buying that WWE, that a portion of that is the XFL. I don't know how true it is. I don't know if they're really interested in it, but I am happy to hear that there is interest in the XFL potentially coming back. Now, we won't know about this, and it probably will not be next season, would be my guess. All right. Yeah. But it's not quite dead yet from what I thought it was, but we have a heartbeat.
There's a couple more months until officially, like, they have a couple more months to sell it and find a suitor. So if there are people interested in saving the league, the time is running. The clock is running. But like Lee said, it does seem like there's a bit of a heartbeat, and would be great. Again, things thrive when there's competition. We see it in games, we see it in movies, we see it everywhere else. So the fact that football, which has become rather stagnant in recent years, and the XFL offered a really good alternative, honestly, in a lot of ways. And again, if it wasn't for the sad fact of the pandemic, that it would probably have done even continue. It was only growing week by week. Yeah. That could have possibly not been I wouldn't say a true competitor, but definitely a fun alternative after the football season that would probably have begun to influence the NFL in years to come with their ideas of kickoffs and other things, their overtime rule. Goodness gracious, please NFL, take their overtime rule. Like, it's just like, there's so many things that the XFL did better than the NFL. Sideline reporting was a lot more fun in the XFL. So I mean,
our audience knows that you just didn't want to see my DC Defenders destroy the New York Guardians in the XFL.
We were tied in the standings, I think, when the season ended. Okay?
Yeah, but were we though? I mean, you didn't have a Beer Snake Cup line that was like ours, and your jerseys weren't as cool. I mean, there's a lot of things I could say here, but look, agree to disagree here. You just, we'll never know.
We'll never know. I know that's the sad thing is we'll never know. We'll never know.
I do. I'm gonna take if I may, I'm gonna take a strong pivot here because we didn't talk about this before the show, but I have to admit that speaking of competition breeding better results, in a massive, we don't get to do this often. In actual real geek news / nerd news, SpaceX successfully launched 2 Americans to the space station, and they docked today as we're recording this episode. And I would be remiss as a nerd and a geek if I did not say that this is in spite of everything that's going on our planet right now, this is an unbelievable human accomplishment.
Yep.
It's being underplayed, unfortunately, but it is a major deal that we are back doing space exploration, that this is the first step to a trip back to the moon, a trip to Mars, and potential commercial trips to space. I was wearing on the launch day yesterday, I was wearing my NASA t-shirt all day because we are really nerds here. It's like, we're not joking about that.
Yeah.
But I had to give a shout out to those astronauts and SpaceX and Elon Musk and NASA for all working together to make that happen. It's a major deal, and I'm glad that America is back launching from this country. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, it was delayed by a day because of rain. But then they got the rocket off without a hitch. Everything seems to be going well. And it is a big deal. And the most fortunate people in the country right now are in space because they can
look, astronauts. Yeah.
Yep. They can look at everything from really far away.
Like, when you're in the fourth quarter of any game and your team is down, they're not coming back. You kind of know it, and then people leave.
Yeah.
That's the metaphor here, right?
That's
Now, some people would say, no, you stay here until the game ends, but it's like, no, like I'm going to space. You know?
Oh man. So, but yeah, we're geeks who like sports. Yeah, that's what we're here for. This is
now,
definitely
this is your opportunity. This is your opportunity, Ray, to use like liftoff or failure to launch in a transition. So whatever you transition to, I have teed you up here for an excellent transition. Okay. So you gotta find something. Again, our audience knows we pride ourselves on our transitions. So something that is failing to launch, or something that has. Speaking of launches, Ray.
Okay. So all right. So something we're doing different here today, which is special. We have a lot of questions that we've gotten from the community that we're going to answer. We're going to answer 2 in the sports section and 2 in the geek section. So speaking of failures and failure to launch, let's talk about the worst sports moments in our history.
Yes,
yeah, well,
that was perfect.
Yeah, I got
it. Speaking of devastating things in your life, let's have. So this is what we're going to do with this segment. Okay, so these are all, as Ray said, all spawned from conversations on our Facebook group page, which has been an unbelievably fun page to be part of, and we love it because it gives us ideas for the show. One of our newer followers asked, "What's the most painful sports moment in your life?" So I'm hoping to have a little bit of humor here. One, because Ray, whatever you say, I'm going to rip you because you've won so much. So there's nothing you could say, right? There's nothing you could say that's going to get me a free pass. So your goal is to try and get me to get a little tear of sympathy. Now, where I'm from, there's plenty of pain. Now, I'll let you have it. Do you want to go first or second? Because you're not going to upstage me on this one.
I was gonna say, let me go first to get it out of the way, since you're probably
smart move. Move.
I mean, so I answered the question in the group. The top 3 moments for me, and this is actually
these are painful moments, and these are below your 32 championships in your life. You're not getting any free passes for me. So Ray's got 32 championship moments in his life. No, just kidding. What is in your life? 12, 13? What was it?
So, I mean, in my life, let's see, I've seen 5 Yankee World Series, a Rangers Stanley Cup, and 4 Giant Super Bowls. So 10. I've seen 10.
Okay, so you've won for just over a third of your life, essentially a third of the life you can remember. So every 3 years, Ray wins.
I like that. I like those averages. Yeah,
you would like that. Although Tom Brady has a better average in the Super Bowl in terms of his career, but
not against them.
Every 3 years, Ray wins. I win once every 18.
Yes, he has 2 championships. Yes, but yeah. So yeah, if you're not watching the video, Lee just stone faced me. So,
but I gotta get something again.
So okay, so my. All right.
Go
so
ahead.
my 3 moments. Yes, well, my 3 moments, and actually, so third to the worst. Third was the 2004 reverse sweep by the Red Sox. That was tough. That was a tough one. I was in college. I was completely destroyed by that because it was just we really had that series in the palm of our hands. We let it slip, and
Can I comment on that one when you're done?
Sure. Number 2.
Are you done?
With that one. Yeah, you go comment on that.
Let's no. I'm gonna comment as we go here, okay? And I'm not reveling in your pain, but I have to explain this because what it was like for me, because I was in New Jersey when that happened in college with you.
Yeah.
Okay. And my roommate at the time, whose name was Ray Santiago, who will actually be a guest on the show soon if he's listening. We lived in the same dorm room together, and we were watching this, and I remember the Yankees being up 3-0. Then the Red Sox won 3 games. It was Game 7, and I'll never forget. If you're watching the video right now, or if you're listening, go watch the video because Ray's face is going to tell the story here. But I remember Johnny Damon coming to the plate and hitting that grand slam early in the game. And I remember, here's the thing: I was not rooting against the Yankees. Like obviously, I didn't have a stake in this game. And if anything, honestly. Like part of me wanted the Yankees to win for you and Ray, and another part of me wanted to see the Red Sox win because it was history at the time. You know what I mean? But I was very neutral. But yeah, Johnny Damon hits a grand slam, and I remember in shock again, not glee, shock in my room, going, "Oh my God," just like that, because I couldn't believe it. And then all I hear from the other room, Ray, is this from Ray Santiago: "Not a big word," right? And then he just sat for 9 innings straight, just like this. Oh my God, I felt so bad for him when that ended. I did. I mean, let me ask you this, Ray. I really do have to ask you this, okay?
Mm-hmm.
New York Yankees fans hate the Boston Red Sox.
Mm-hmm.
Hate them. And
Mm-hmm.
I am not saying you shouldn't. When they won the World Series that year, this is an honest question. I want you to answer me honestly. I'm not saying did you feel good for them. I know the answer to that. Did that at least make it a tiny bit easier to take, knowing that the team that beat you won and that they had overcome this thing that had plagued them forever? Was there any? I'm not trying to jab you. I swear. I just need to know. Was there anything in you that went, all right? You know what I'm saying?
Maybe the smallest of slivers of me was
Okay,
like,
that's
fine,
fair.
like just fine, great, like it's over, like good for them.
Fine.
I mean, the only thing I took joy in was the fact that Boston burned that night, so because they were in celebration. So, good for them. But yeah, so 2004, number two was the 2014 Stanley Cup, where the Rangers lost in 5 to the Kings. But that, again, and we've talked about this, that was the closest 5-game series you'll ever see, because the Rangers, the Chris Kreider hit 2 posts. Either one of those goes in, they win 2 more games. Like, I mean, they win another game. Like, it's just like both of those posts would have been game-winning goals had he not hit the post. And because one of them I remember was specifically in overtime, and it was just like,
yeah, it was. I do too. I was in England watching that as the sun was coming up, and I remember that was a close series. It should never have been 5 games. It should have been 7.
Yeah, no, exactly. A couple of different puck bounces a different way, and that's easily a 7-game series, and then you don't know what happens. But the fact that was really after the hard-fought Eastern Conference final against Montreal. I know that King team had so much momentum on their side, also coming back from a reverse sweep in the first round. But it still hurt. It still stung. And because it had been so long since the Rangers won, that actually stung more than 2004 for me with baseball.
Well, the other thing too is now there's added sting to it, because it's going to go down as Lundqvist's closest chance to win the cup as the starting goalie of the Rangers. And I'm saying that because there's a really outside chance they have a shot this year. But that will be Lundqvist. That was Lundqvist's last chance, and I will always say this: he deserved better from that organization than he got. All right, and even as a Flyers fan, I really have a lot of respect for Henrik Lundqvist, and it's going to be one of the things that really plagues him is that he'll never have that cup. He'll just never have it, and shouldn't keep him out of the Hall of Fame or anything like that, but we'll see.
No, it won't keep him out of the Hall of Fame, but he'll go down as one of those guys it was a what if. It was an almost.
Jeremy Roenick,
Ron
Hextall.
Yeah, exactly. Like and he's just another one. And unfortunately that happens. A lot of great guys, a lot of great players have never won a championship, and it is what it is. And so that one stung. And then the worst one for me still, because I remember the tears streaming down my face, because in a very similar way, in the end of an era, a guy who never won a championship, who was my favorite player growing up. And my first sport, much like hockey is Lee's first sport, my first sport is baseball. I come from a very baseball-oriented household. I played more baseball than anything growing up. I played 7 years of Little League. And then in 95, when the Yankees were up 2-0, first off, for the first time in his career, Don Mattingly finally made the playoffs. And the Yankees go 2-0. They win the first 2 games at Yankee Stadium. The dramatic Jim Leyritz extra inning home run. And you don't know what would happen against Cleveland in the ALCS, but to then go to Seattle, to go to that crappy Kingdome, that terrible, disgusting, miserable stadium in Seattle, which I was so happy when they blew it up, or imploded it. Actually, they don't blow things up anymore because they could hurt people. But I still remember that stupid, ugly neon green shirt.
Just something in the way you said that made me laugh.
Yeah, it's just
It's just like thanks for the disclaimer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just to lose again in a reverse sweep, basically, right? To be up 2-0 and then to lose the next three.
That is a reverse sweep.
And for Mattingly, for that's how his career to end, right? I mean, and I know Mattingly wasn't, again, the second half of his career wasn't what he was the first half of his career because of all the injuries to his back and all that, but it still hurts. He was still my favorite player growing up, and it just for that, again, for him not to not get a championship, for his one shot, the closest he got was the first round of the playoffs to get a world championship as a player. It sucked. It just really, really sucked. I remember crying. I was 10 years old and I cried like a baby because I knew that was
those are the ones you remember.
For him.
I mean, that's those. Look, especially when you're younger, these things have so much more significance in the sense of, I guess, emotionally, right? But that's a fair list, Ray. I mean, it's a fair list. I mean, like I give you credit for not making the 04 one your number one. I mean, you understood it.
See, I think 1995 was especially hard for me, though, like even more so than 2004 and 2014, was because, like you said, Lee, I was a kid, really hadn't experienced a championship as much, really, because baseball, again, was my number one sport. So I hadn't in my lifetime experienced a baseball championship yet. And again, very blessed to have had 5 since then. But in that moment, it was particularly heart-wrenching. Yes, I had 2 Giants Super Bowls, but I was too young. I was 1-4 when the Giants won those Super Bowls. They didn't register. Even when
I understand.
When the Rangers won the Cup, I didn't understand the magnitude of that at the time because I was 9. Right, I just turned 9, and like it was great, but baseball, I knew, like it had been drilled into me by my parents that the Yankees hadn't won in 20 years. We haven't seen this, yada yada yada, and like so that I had felt that more than the other ones, and that for sure was definitely for me. That was 95 is easy, the number one though. Overall. Well,
and here's the other thing about 95, as you just said, was you hadn't won yet, right? The Yankees hadn't won yet. There wasn't this dynasty of the Empire wasn't back yet.
Right.
So like that one, I won't even rib you on that one because I get it, because that's my entire life.
Well, and I also just want to briefly mention that was also the year post-lockout where the Yankees were doing great in 94, and then they just canceled the season. So, like, it felt especially bittersweet to know that the team the prior year was even better than the team that lost in 95, and that was robbed of us for a variety of reasons.
Well, that's always been baseball's problem. It just knows how to rip your heart through your back, I'll just say.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got 4 moments on my list, but before I get to my actual moments, I want to talk about one that's kind of it's not an honorable mention. It's a pretty bad moment for the country. Was the Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire steroid situation during the home run race? Because I always said this, that when Mark McGwire was on the steps of Congress and they asked him, do you use performance-enhancing drugs? And he wouldn't answer. I was a kid. I remember thinking, well, why doesn't he just say he didn't do it? And then it just dawned on me, like, oh my God, it's because he did. I remember that being very painful. So that's not a sports season, but that was a moment in sports that really hurt quite a bit. And like we talk about the end of your youth, that was one of the moments of the end of my youth, age of innocence. Okay, so my 4, and I'll go in reverse order. And Ray, you can rip on me for some of these because you were present for some of them. Number 4, counting down again. It's 2004. Patriots are playing the Eagles in the Super Bowl. My other friend Ray, and I go to we'll just call it a hot wing joint to watch this game. And I remember, I'll never live this down. Obviously, the Eagles lost to the Patriots. It was a great game, though. McNabb and Terrell Owens were there. This was, Brady wasn't fully Brady yet, and he was still kind of like a great quarterback that had won already, but he wasn't Tom Brady like we know him today. And I remember saying this, and I've never lived this down. I remember saying, man, it's like they know every play we're running before we run it.
Yeah.
And Ray are always there to remind me, it's because they did. All right, so that one hurt. That one hurt. I really thought, you remember, this is before the Phillies won in 2008. I hadn't won anything in my life to this point. I'm thinking this might be the one, and it wasn't. Okay. Number 3, counting down, year's 2000, Game 7, Eastern Conference Final. We win this game. We're on to the Cup. Okay, we're going to play the, the Dallas Stars that year, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to win the Stanley Cup for the first time in my life. Eric Lindros, captain of the Flyers, the embodiment of the Neanderthal 90s era of hockey. It's the turn of the century. He's the greatest athlete of all time. He's Philadelphia hockey. That team's everything to me. Game 7, and Scott Stevens comes over the blue line, flattens him, and he was never the same again. You could feel the series end as he knocked Lindros out. Always been a lot of controversy on whether or not it was a fair hit. I will tell you what Eric Lindros said. He said, if it was me and it was reversed, I would have done the same thing. Mm-hmm. So that ended it for me. But there's another moment that's just like, there's moments you've lost. That was the moment we knew we lost. Yeah. And Lindros, that was his last moment as a Flyer.
Yeah.
Never Flyer again after that. So that was the end of an era. It was much more than just losing that series. It was just like the captain. It was, New Jersey. And just you talk about taking the air out of the room. And then they went on to win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which hurt even more. And then they went the next year again. They lost to the Avalanche. But that was a really painful moment. I remember watching it and being like, oh, no. Moving on to number 2, it's a more recent one. The 2019 NBA semifinal between the Toronto Raptors and 76ers.
Another game set.
Again,
yep.
Yeah. This only made the list just because it's so recent. So it was very painful last year watching. Sixers were a great team last year.
Yeah.
And then Kawhi Leonard took that shot with no time left in overtime, which a lot of people don't realize. This is the first buzzer beater overtime game winner in NBA history.
Yeah.
I don't know if people know that. It's never happened before. And it's not even just he didn't just take a 3 and sink it, right? He takes a 3 and it bounces on the rim. And then it's just kind of like you don't know where it's going. And then, a breath from the basketball gods, blow it in the hoop. Bloop. And then Toronto wins. They go on to win, in something that nobody thought this team could do. They go on and win the entire thing.
Yeah.
All right, which again, that took a little bit of the pain away, knowing that we got beat by the champion. But that's we were a centimeter away from being that team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that was really painful. That's number 2. Now, number 1, it's not because I was young. All right, this one hurt because I really loved the team. I really love the players on this team. From everybody on this team, it's the 2004 Philadelphia Flyers. They lost in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Final to the Tampa Bay Lightning 1-0. And I'll never forget this because we were down 3-2 in this series. Simone Gagne scored an overtime winner in Game 6 to bring us back. This team had Jeremy Roenick, Keith Primo, Simone Gagne. It had players that I loved. I really loved that team. And then to lose 1-0. And I remember this takes nothing away from Toronto. From Tampa Bay. I don't even have a cool story to be like, oh, well, this happened and this play happened. They just got the goal that night. It was a game that could have gone either way. I remember watching it. It was just like they just got the goal. It was just it's like you talked about the posts in overtime.
Yeah.
And then they went on to win the Stanley Cup. They beat Calgary in 7 games.
Yeah.
To win the Stanley Cup. And I remember thinking, I know we went to the Stanley Cup final in 2010, but that team I thought came, that was the team that could have won it. If they went to the final, they would have won. I really believe that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the 2010 Flyers that lost. And the reason they're not on my list is because we got beat by a Chicago team that was destined. The Flyers were just not as good as that team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It would be safe to say that we were not the favorites in that series. You know what I mean? Like,
yes,
Flyers were the favorites. It hurt. That one hurt.
I mean, that's
college.
That's a series where you ran into the Bulin wall, Nikolai Khabibulin. There's the goalie. Like he that playoffs. I'll never forget that playoffs. He stood on his head, and that game, a couple of the games against Calgary, he literally just stole several games to bring. I mean that was a good Lightning team too. You had LeCavier, you had Martin St. Louis, but
unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah,
possible.
Tortorella was the coach, who of course is a very good coach, but Khabibulin, the Bulin Wall, he literally, there were several games throughout that entire playoffs, including that Game 7, that he just robbed. He just robbed people. He just stole it.
It was painful. Yeah, that's the way the cookie crumbled. The nice part is, I think let's see, in all four of those instances, the team. Wow, I just realized this. The team in all four of those instances that won went on to win the championship that year. So that's being close. But like, here's the deal with being a Philadelphia fan. When you met me, this was more true. I don't say this too much anymore because we've won twice since then, in 2008 and obviously in 2018. But being a Philly fan was tough. I mean, it was tough. We didn't win for a long time, and we were always the butt of jokes if you'll never do it. And then we won the World Series, and then we won the Super Bowl. But I will tell you this: if the Flyers ever win the Stanley Cup, and I love the Sixers too, but if the Flyers ever win the Stanley Cup, that would probably be a whole new level for me. It's got to be like when the Yankees win the World Series or the Giants win the Super Bowl for you, Ray. But like Ray was there when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, and I went pretty nuts. I mean, the Flyers will be 10 times that.
Yeah, no, I'm going to say that if the Flyers make the Stanley Cup, I will fly back to Philadelphia to be with you for that. So either way.
Vegas. We're 1-0 when we go to Vegas to watch championships for Philadelphia.
That's true. We should. So we should.
That streak.
Yeah, so we should. So at least for Game 4 through Game 7, we have to go to Vegas. We have to be there for that week long of events if necessary. To make sure. Yeah. So I think that's the
we got to stay there, right? Till they don't win.
I hear Vegas is actually very nice. They have a new football team now too.
They do. We could make this work, Ray. Actually, luckily for us, maybe they'll play the Vegas Golden Knights in the final. They won't really have to be there.
Well, that's true. That would be at
that point.
Yeah. You're there for work. But yeah, no, that I feel for you, buddy. I mean, I do. I was there. I was there when you won, and I'm there when you've lost.
True. You were there. Well, yeah, you were there for. That's true, Ray. It's fair. I mean, you're probably around in 2004 too. Your friends there too, but yeah, I mean, like here's the thing. Just on the note that you had, I remember some of the tears in my eyes when I was younger. But like I see that more as innocence in the sense of like I remember we lost like Buffalo in like a quarterfinal or semifinal, and I mean it hurt, but it didn't hurt like these other ones did.
Oh yeah, I mean same thing. I remember when we lost in 2007 to Buffalo in the semis after we swept the Thrashers.
Yeah, I remember that year. Yeah.
Yeah, we lost in 6. It was a series where, I mean, and Buffalo, remember, lost the next round. And I believe this. I believe Buffalo lost because they took everything they had to beat us as that Ranger team. With Lundqvist, who was just starting to hit his prime. Yager was still very, very good. Sean Avery was a pest, as always. But, like, yeah. But
and the other year that keeps coming up is 1997. The Flyers lost to the Detroit Red Wings. People always ask me, like, how painful that was. And I said, I mean, it sucked. But you got to remember, we got swept. And, like, the Red Wings team from that year, their story is so much larger than the game by this point. We know that looking back 25 years ago. But, like, when you get swept in a series, it sucks. But here's the thing. It's not as painful as losing in a Game 7. I've always been asked that. I'll ask this to you, Ray. The question's always, in the audience listening, is always, would you rather lose 4 straight or lose in a Game 7? And I'm shocked when I hear people say, "Oh, I'd rather be swept."
Yeah, no, like, I agree with you. I'd rather be swept and be blown out and just be like, well, you know what, we just weren't the better team, and that's fine. Than to know that we were a post away or a point away, and how Game 7 can sometimes just a puck bounce or a ball bounce or just the wrong way, and like.
Look, let's go back to your example. I'm not making fun of you. Let's go back to the Sox and the Yankees in 2004. There's no way a Yankee fan can convince me I'd rather just get swept by the Red Sox, because if I was a Yankees fan, all right, and I mean that, I am not being sarcastic, my answer to that would be, look, you have to go through us if you want to win, and you did. Yeah. You had to go through us. You went the distance, and you won. All right, but I think a Yankee sweep in that ALCS would have been devastating.
Yeah,
much more devastating than that. So not as notable, to be fair. It would not as be historically notable, but I mean, you would agree with that, right?
Yeah, it's 2004. Anyway,
so we're going to continue this super happy, positive show tonight.
Yeah, no, we are going to get into some fun stuff now. We are now. So our second question of the week for the sports side of things is, and this came from the group, is what sports action figures do you want to see made or should be made? And so this is a lighter one, and this will also help us transition into the geek segment because we're talking about action figures, which is always fun stuff. Obviously, Lee's got a lot of action figures. You can see if you're watching the video, Gretzky behind him, and other hockey players and stuff. I admit I do not have a lot of sports figure action figures. My action figures are of the more traditional variety of Transformers and Batman and whatnot. But
what are you trying to say?
Yo, what I'm saying is that if there were maybe some more Yankee figures, maybe some Babe Ruth, some Lou Gehrig's, some Mickey Mantles, that I might some legends.
But yeah, the McFarlane figures, those you can get those. Now, see, for those of you listening, you don't know this, but I talked Ray into this so I could find out what to get him for Christmas this year and Hanukkah, and now I've done it. So, fooled you.
Well, damn it, Lee. I don't know. I mean,
I told you this would get festive real quick.
Goodness. Yeah, I don't know. I just any legend any legendary Yankee, Giant, Ranger. Well, I'm not gonna worry about the Knicks. So any legendary, yeah. So there you go. There's my answer. I would love to see those. Lee, what about you? What sports figures do you want to see?
Well, I have a pretty in-depth answer to this because there's actually something else in this topic people don't think about. But I'll give you the answers first. I would love to have an action figure of Nick Foles catching the Philly special.
That would be cool.
Or just him with his hands out after he caught it. That's a pretty defining moment now in Philly sports. I would love to have that. Okay, I would love to have a Brad Lidge. He was a closer for the Phillies in 2008 on his knees, thanking the baseball gods. That would be a cool action figure to have. Really embody. This is the cool thing when the Phillies won in 2008, and he did that. I didn't see that because I was going nuts. But I'm told that he dropped to his knees and put his hands up to the sky, and I'm told I actually did the same thing where I was living. I dropped it. I put my hands up to the sky. What's funny is, apparently, I'm told now. After the Phillies won, after the Eagles won, people have told me what I've done, and I don't remember doing it, which means that I guess I'm blacking out. Like when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, Travis is like, you jumped up, rammed into a door, like ripped the door, and then you flew back on the couch. And I'm like, I don't remember any of that. I don't remember. Yeah. But and then when you were there, and apparently this happened.
And then when you got back to the couch, that's when we piled on you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember the pile. I remember screaming, "Oh my God!" underneath this pile of people.
Yeah.
And then when the Phillies won, I remember someone was pouring champagne on me. But apparently, when a Philly sports team wins, there's a 3 to 8 second gap, like when you're on the dark side of the moon, that I don't remember. I just don't remember it. So for those of you hoping to get me on something, be there when the Flyers win because it's going to be triple as long. I have no idea what's going to happen. I just know I remember it. I just hope what happens is I'm not like, well, what happened to Ray? And people are like, we don't talk about that. Well, it was the Cup final. He's just not around anymore. Like, he wishes you the best.
Yeah.
Wherever he may be.
Jeez, he was your best friend, Lee. Wow.
Hey, listen, the Flyers won. No, so yeah, this is where this gets funny. So I'd love to have Nick Foles, and I really would love to have Brad Lidge. I mean, most of the hockey people I have, I have already. I think one of the funny things that we don't talk about, I think about this all the time because I'm weird like this, is, thinking like McFarlane figures. And McFarlane figures are known for catching a moment in time. All right. Like I have all the Gretzky ones of him breaking records in his last game. And it made me think, I love this topic, like the action figures that are horrible moments that if they were made, people would buy them. So for example, and I'll go back to what I was talking about, and God, please don't ever make this, but Scott Stevens laying out Eric Lindros on the ice, and Lindros in that famous kind of knocked out. Like I can see that action figure in my head, and every Devils fan owning it. You know what I mean? I think about that. Another one is Tom Brady missing the pass in the Super Bowl.
How about Bill Buckner in '86?
Standing with that look on his face.
Like when the ball goes between his legs.
There's so many great, horrendous moments that we could have an action figure of. And it would be hilarious. It would legit be hilarious. Like, I wouldn't buy that Lindros figure, but I wouldn't blame a Devils fan for having it. You know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say?
Like why do you go to the guy's house? Like, why do you have a Flyers figure? He's like, oh, that's That's the aftermath of the Scott Stevens hit figure.
Why do you have a knocked out Lindros with Scott Stevens? Son, sit down. Let me tell you a story.
Let's flash back to the year 2000.
Yeah. I mean, or like a baseball player swinging and missing in the World Series to lose the game.
Oh, Carlos Beltran looking at the curveball against Wainwright against the Cardinals.
Yes. Or Mitch Williams giving up that Joe against the Toronto Blue Jays. You know what I mean? 1993.
Joe Carter.
Just giving up a home run to Joe Carter to blow the game. Wild thing. Yeah. You know, there's so many more of those moments that people forgot about.
Yeah.
Or like if you're this is gonna hurt. If you're a Tennessee Titans fan, just the player reaching for the goal
the 1 yard line.
It's just like you got the field there, and he's just a yard away. What is that, son? Sit down. Let me tell you a story. I mean, so we want to know what you think. So comment below with what are the worst moments in sports to make an action figure out of. I know the people listening, you could have a lot of those. All right. But honestly, those are the ones I think of when it comes to sports. Now, the last thing about the action figures is there's a lot of historical, like there's a lot of fake athletes, like in Philadelphia, like how there's not a Rocky Balboa action figure, like a McFarlane figure is beyond me. Like I would buy him and all of his opponents.
Right.
You know what I mean? Apollo Creed. I'd buy Clubber Lang, Apollo Creed again. You know, Ivan Drago. Probably wouldn't buy the Tommy gun, but then I would. And then you have to go forward like Mason Dixon.
Yeah.
Who is you can look this up. That's not a joke. All right, it's a bad guy. And then I guess you'd have to have the Creed villains too. I'd buy all those. That's my point.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So Rocky would be a good one. I mean, I would totally buy a Roy Hobbs, the Natural action figure.
Yeah.
Right. The Hanson brothers from hockey.
Yeah.
I mean,
the Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, can you imagine the whole team? Goldberg, except before he's drugged out.
And you can hit my mic, and you could fit them into a flying V. They would they could attach into a flying V.
You imagine a desk with the Hanson brothers, the Mighty Ducks, and then Eric Lindros being knocked out by Scott Stevens. And then if it's us, and then behind all that is like a TIE fighter, the Millennium Falcon, and the Death Star.
Lee, you're describing your room. You're just describing your office, Lee. Or what could be your future office. My
brain's a fun place.
It is. All right, so now that we mentioned TIE fighters and we've mentioned Millennium Falcons, we got some Star Wars news this week about the Jedi Temple. Lee, tell us about what's going on with the Jedi Temple.
Ray, I'm gonna have to explain this to Ray because Ray kind of heard about this but didn't dive into it.
I didn't dive into it because
completely understandable, but I'm going to explain it to you. I love these segments because, Ray, you're going to do this in reverse in a minute to me, but I love these segments because I get to explain something to you and the people get to listen to it. Okay, so you ready for this? This is a real simple explanation, actually.
Okay.
Do you remember Legends of the Hidden Temple?
Yes.
Okay, it's that but Star Wars.
Oh, that's fantastic! And how do we sign up?
Yeah, exactly. We're too old. But, oh, God, can you imagine if that was me and you against all these kids? Anyway, that'll be a fun scenario to play out in a minute. So basically what happens is it's called Jedi Temple. And, it's like Guts. It's like Legends of the Hidden Temple, everything you saw when you were a kid. And these young people are going through the Jedi trials. That's the idea. And you have to use strength and force. And there's different activities they have to do to compete to become a Jedi. That's the whole idea. And then this is the thing they tease, which has got me really intrigued because I'm such a nerd. They're like, or will you be tempted by the dark side? And like the promo shows like everything goes red, and like they're gonna be presented with choices, right? And I'm like, one of these little bastards better go dark.
I know, yeah.
Win, right? They gotta win. I don't know. I don't know how that's gonna work out. But now, Ray, I'm visualizing you and me as fully grown adults, with arthritis and stuff, like taking the kids and throwing them away and being like, using the force, like, you never seen Star Wars? I love Kylo Ren. Shut up! Just doing that, But yeah, it's gonna be on YouTube. Actually, it's not gonna be on Disney Plus.
That's interesting. Weird. That's
I thought so, at least for now. But listen. Again, it's Legends of the Hidden Temple, but Star Wars. That is exactly what it is. Now I've convinced you to go watch the trailer for it.
Yeah, no, I need to go watch this. That is sounds awesome. Like I didn't know that's what it was.
I will tell you this too, Ray. In my continuing quest to get you to Philadelphia, not only will you be able to watch this with me and my children, I will buy you a cheesesteak every episode. And the Force will be with you.
You know, one of these days, I'm going to take you up on these deals, and you're going to be like, what happened to all my money? And it's like, and I'll just be there eating like 60 cheesesteaks. Like, that's where your budget will go.
I have a pork bank with your money in it. Just waiting for you to come here.
Oh, man. So one of the topics that wasn't in our outline, but something I'm going to surprise you with something, but something I think that you'll care about and know about. Speaking of YouTube, Cobra Kai, which is a show that we both very, very much enjoyed, is supposedly now up for grabs. And it sounds like Hulu and Netflix are the top bidders, and they're fighting to get the rights to season 3 and the back episode. So Cobra Kai will no longer be a YouTube exclusive. Lee, what are your thoughts on this?
I think a few things. One is it opens up a few things in my mind. So YouTube was doing this very well. It was being produced very well. So that team involved has to stay together. That's number one. Number two is it looked like it was going towards maybe finishing its story arc, and I'm interested now. Does this open up for more seasons? Right? I don't know the answer to that. We don't know. It depends how they go with this season. I really like this show because it's self-aware enough to make it entertaining. And what I mean by that is when you watch Cobra Kai, it's very aware of Karate Kid movies and kind of the 80s vibe of that. Yep. And it's not afraid to make fun of itself, but it also continues the story in a modern way. Ray and I are writers. That's very, very hard to do.
Yes.
Very hard to do.
Yes.
It's hard to do in movies, much less episodic. Okay. And it's got a lot of the actors, and it's teased older actors from the film too. We're all wanting to know if Elizabeth Shue is going to be in this upcoming season. I don't know what it means for Hulu and Netflix, meaning I know they're bidding on it. It's not good for YouTube, I can tell you that they let it go. I have no idea what's behind that decision financially, monetarily.
Yeah.
But either way, I win because I have Hulu and Netflix, and I'm looking forward to that season coming out.
Yeah, so I'm in the same boat. I have all that stuff too. I think that maybe YouTube realizes it's not easy to make a lot of original programming, or they want to steer away from more narrative stuff. Like that does seem to be more the Hulu, Netflix vibe, whereas YouTube seems to be more, I don't want to say influencer related, but it is kind of that more,
search engine.
Yeah, exactly. It's more people making personal projects and using the people who have become quote unquote YouTube stars more than doing original stuff.
Look, a stat people don't seem. This is a stat that is obvious, but people don't tend to know it. Is the number one search engine in the world is Google. The number 2 search engine in the world is YouTube. All right, everybody used to it's Yahoo, it's Bing. It is, but I'm saying in terms of websites, they are. But YouTube is the second search engine in the world.
Yeah.
And more content. This is a stat that's always blown my mind. In 1 month, this was true 10 years ago, so it's even more true now. In 1 month, YouTube uploads more video than ABC, CBS, and NBC have made combined in their history. That's 1 insane. Month. And you can look that up. It's probably more like 2 weeks now. All right, but every show that NBC, CBS, and ABC has made, every show they've ever made, from the day they came on the air until today, YouTube does that in a month.
Yeah, they had an 80-year head start, and then they're already eclipsed.
That's technology for you. The other example is like the Yellow Pages has been around for 100 years, and then Google's like, nah.
Yeah.
All right, so things change, right? They're changing right now. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it means for YouTube. YouTube's not going anywhere. I think it also means that like they probably weren't getting the viewing audience they wanted, and like, Cobra Kai, which is a great show, is not strong enough on its own to drag people from HBO Max, Disney Plus, Hulu, and they know that. Yeah. So it's kind of like stick with what you know. Let's sell the rights. I wouldn't be surprised if the deal YouTube's getting paid for it. You know what I mean? So they're probably not losing out completely.
Yeah.
But like I can't even name another YouTube original program. That tells you what you need to know.
No, exactly. I can't either. Like, and that's the thing. Like, that was the only one that actually really made waves because it was based on such a beloved property. And now it's It's going bye-bye, Egon. So, yeah, that's a different 80s reference.
Excellent reference. No.
Thank you. But yeah, so it'll be
that's
interesting
not
to see.
coming out like it's supposed to right now because that would hurt you too much.
Yeah.
Soon. Holiday release, maybe.
Please,
big.
please, I need more Ghostbusters.
Maybe they'll just stream it. We can watch it from our home, and then you can fly here and I'll buy you a cheesesteak.
That sounds like a plan. Speaking of sequels, though, just announced and confirmed this week, which we knew, no surprise, because it did so well at theaters, and it is so well made. Sonic 2 is officially now in the works. They've been talking about it since the first one came out that they're going to bring in Knuckles. That looks like it's going to be confirmed. They do want supposedly the Rock is in talks to play Knuckles, the voice of Knuckles. Whether or not we'll see what happens. But that seems to be who they want to get. But yeah, no surprise. Very thrilled to be here. Sonic 1 was great. I know it didn't have a high bar to cross in terms of video game movies, but Sonic 1 was really, really great. It did everything that a Sonic fan, young and old, would want from it. And I'm thrilled to be hearing they're making a sequel and cannot wait for this. Lee, your thoughts on the Sonic sequel?
Yeah, so a few thoughts. One is that this has got to be one of the greatest comebacks in the history of cinema. A movie that was almost dead, I mean, to be honest with you. And then they took it really ambitious. I remember we were talking last week about the Snyder Cut and how it's teaching audiences to do the wrong thing. But we said, and we referenced Sonic, that clearly not. Right? So they did something right here. The first movie, and this is what's cool about sequels, is we can kind of start to look into this a little bit. The first movie left three major unanswered questions. Which I'm going to guess all three of them are going to be addressed. One is obviously what happened to Robotnik? Like, how's he going to get back? How is Eggman, right, going to get back and figure that out? And Jim Carrey was really great in that role. So that's the obvious number one.
Right.
Number two is Tails shows up in the post-credit scene. It's really not a spoiler. I mean, if you know Sonic, that's not a spoiler. All right. And they're looking for him. So he's talking to someone saying he's here. All right, which totally sets up Sonic the Hedgehog 2, the video game, which is great.
Right.
And then the third one, which you talked about, is Knuckles' species did make a cameo in the beginning of the film.
Right, they were the ones hunting Sonic. Yeah.
Yeah, his species is hunting Sonic. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, the echidnas. The echidnas. Yeah.
Yeah, and I couldn't remember the name. Thank you for saying that. So they're hunting him. His owl mother is there, which didn't have long enough of a part. I wonder if there's something with that's going to continue.
Mm-hmm.
And so how does that, is Knuckles a freedom fighter? I mean, we don't know.
Yeah.
But this is going to be one of those few times where we talk about you can have too many villains or good people. You got a pretty cool mix of things here, right? Is Knuckles going to be that bad guy that turns into a hero to help Sonic and Tails? Yeah. And it comes down to this. The script for Sonic 1 was written really well. Okay, it understood what it had to do. Looking back on it now, it actually would have been kind of devastating if they didn't update the way Sonic looked, because it was actually a very enjoyable family film. All right, and it would have flopped if they didn't do that. So I'm excited to see where it goes from here. I hope James Marsden is back as the Donut Lord.
Donut Lord.
All right, and I hope the whole cast returns, and they deserve it. Like I said, this is important to say. They listened to the fan base. They made a mistake. They even put an animator out of business doing this, and now you can reap the reward. This is what happens when you listen, when it's right. Okay, and we said this before. It's not every film. If there's an original creation, we talked about this with Andrew Reiner. If it's an original creation, it's your creation. You can do whatever you want. Nobody has to agree with the way you end your own creation. When you have decades of canon, when you have rich
comics, video games,
storylines, you have to stay close, stay on the rails, all right, and don't deviate. We've learned this so many times. This film understood that, they fixed it, and now we can move forward.
You have to pick and choose your battles, right? Like, obviously, there's little ways you can be creative, and obviously, you don't have to be necessarily completely cookie cutter. But although sometimes that works. I mean, I think that would, again, but you look at This is why Zack Snyder, I mean, just to go back to the Snyder Cut a little bit, was so popular to begin with, because he took 300 and he took Watchmen, and he basically followed the comic books for the most part.
It wasn't basic. I mean, he did. I mean, there were
very slight deviations, very slight. He
Yeah.
modernized the ending a little bit for Watchmen, but really that was it.
Yeah, well, that was just so people knew. But like, here, this is what I'll say about Snyder on that. With 300 and with especially The Watchmen, you can flip the pages of that book with the movie.
Yes.
All right, and they're shot to the same thing.
Yeah.
All right.
There's
like
a little more leeway here with Sonic, at least. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but it's because it's not Snyder. But like I said, they stayed within the realm. They stayed within the rails. It's believable. You know what Sonic accomplished, Ray? And I think I'm going to say it like this. They made a 90s kid movie today, which is, I think, super, really hard to do.
Yeah.
Right? In fact, I can't think of another non-Disney movie. I have to say that because Disney's consistent as hell. But like, I can't think of another non-Disney kids movie that had that feeling. Like, I felt like I was back in the 90s watching that movie.
Yeah.
I did.
It really did have that vibe. Yeah.
Yeah. You have just ridiculous enough, just aware enough. That's the key.
You have you have good kids movies now, but they are not specifically like that 90s era vibe, for sure. But, we mentioned Snyder. We mentioned, of course, also sequels. Another big news that seems to be happening this week is that Henry Cavill seems to be in talks that it's very close that he will be coming back as Superman.
Good.
So
you want me to comment on this, or do you want to comment?
I mean, I think it's a win. I think he didn't get a fair shake as Superman. I think that the scripts didn't do him justice. I think we both enjoyed Man of Steel and his take on the character. He fits the role very well. And I think that this is a good thing, and that hopefully now that Warner Brothers has pulled their heads out of their butts, that they are learning from their mistakes, and that if they want to actually make money, they should listen to their fans more. And this is a good step in the right direction, along with the Snyder Cut stuff.
Absolutely. And assuming the Snyder Cut does well, that opens the door for him to return in many roles. There has never been a Man of Steel sequel, which I think was a major mistake.
Yeah.
Because they rushed the DCU out.
Yep.
All right. As Ray said, I am a huge fan of Man of Steel. I had no problem with that film. A lot of people do. I really liked that take on Superman as kind of like, not a perfect person. That's number one. Number two is that, and we'll never fix this, but they screwed up the relationship between him and Batman so much.
Yeah, well, that's really what.
That I hope that Justice League, the Snyder Cut, remedies that a little bit, but I don't know if that's even possible. Ray and I compare ourselves to those two characters, where I'm Superman and Ray's Batman. Where it's I would trust Ray with the kryptonite to stop me because I am like truth, justice, and the American way. I mean, that's not actually a far off.
Yeah, and I'm dark and brooding and angry.
Yeah, it's just not far off as a description. But to understand the Batman Superman relationship is to understand our relationship. We're very much opposites, but we trust each other like brothers. And like I said, I would trust him with Krypton, and Ray knows I could break him in half if I felt like it, metaphorically.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's like the one. It's like the one storyline. I think it's Justice League Doom, where they find out that Batman had contingency plans for every one of them. And then at the end, when they're basically ready to kick Batman out of the Justice League, they're like, well, what was the contingency plan to stop yourself? And he's like, the Justice League. Yeah. That's that's the thing. And Superman kind of smiles because he kind of knows and stuff. And
you're a stupid human who doesn't belong in this universe, but that's not the point. Right. I mean, again, if you guys want to get real geeky, I mean, I believe it's a kryptonite ring, right? That Superman gives Batman, or
Yeah,
Batman.
I mean, in different takes, it's either a ring or Batman fashions it into a ring. But he gives him a shard of kryptonite, and of course we all laugh because there's also storylines where Batman literally goes and has a vault full of kryptonite already because he's prepared, like super prepared for this, and he just kind of adds the ring to the vault. But yeah, I mean, it's the idea that it's a shard or something
to stop him.
To stop him.
Yeah, and again, what's funny is that Batman v Superman started to kind of go down that road and just failed miserably. I mean, because it would have made sense. The only thing from Batman v Superman, which I hate saying V, by the way, but I have to because it's the name of the movie. The only realistic part of that is that Batman prepared to stop Superman. Yes. That is very Batman-ish, okay? And that Superman was too naive to realize that. That's the only part of that movie that was realistic to me.
Yeah.
All right. In a lot of ways, but I mean, I'm not going to get into the Martha thing again. It'll come up again. All right, but like, yeah, I'd love to see a sequel to Man of Steel. All right, Ray and I were talking about this the other day. We'd love to see Brainiac. All right, we'd love to see another villain. I mean, it sounds like it's going to be Darkseid, but I'd love to see Brainiac. I'd love to see some of these other classic Superman villains because Superman has a lot of great villains.
Yeah,
there's a lot of great villains that you never see on film.
His rogues gallery isn't as good as Batman's or maybe even the Flash in some regards. You could make that argument for number 2, but
Flash has got
Parasite.
I mean, the Flash has time travel. I mean, listen, Batman and the Flash are very much defined by their villains.
Yes.
Right. Superman doesn't work that way.
Right. No, it's true. It's very, very true. Yeah,
so
Superman has Parasite though, Lex Luthor, Brainiac. Like you said, Darkseid, Toyman. Like there are other great Superman villains that could be done at some point. I don't know if they'd be global threats, but
how about this? How about this? You know what would make a great Superman villain right now? Or Superman film right now is him having to find a way. I really mean this, to come to terms with the current state of the world and why he has to be Superman. Am I wrong in saying that the world needs a Superman right now? Something to strive for hope. I mean, like, here's the thing, one of the things about Superman, I know Ray, you're a Batman guy, but one of the things about Superman, all right, is that our world, as we know it, tends to shout for that character to come back in times of peril. And that's when Superman Returns came back. It was a rough time. It's just, Superman Returns came out what year? It was post 9/11, right?
2005.
Yeah, so we needed Superman then, and when the Snyder Cut came out, we had just gone through the with Man of Steel, massive recession and tough times.
Well, I mean, you could even say the original Superman with Christopher Reeve. That's only a couple of years after the end of Vietnam. Like, I mean, like that's like that. He is a character for hope. He is a character that's an inspiration. He's a character of leadership, and right now that's something that I think the country desperately needs right now.
We definitely need that. So, and I think Henry Cavill could do it, going back to making this full circle. All right. So I would love to see, especially Zack Snyder, write a movie. And, we need Superman to tell us again why he stands for us, because he's above us in terms of everything. And like I said, they've kind of scratched that a little bit. I mean, and then in Justice League, like, I know a thing about truth and justice. I'm like, what the hell am I watching right now? Who wrote you that line?
Yeah.
You get it? Because Ray, he can jump over a building in a single bound and he's faster than a speeding, but you get it? You get it? Yeah. That's what that scene felt like to me. The whole audience goes, oh!
Yeah.
Collective groan. What, mother? I'm coming for you, mother! I was like,
Speaking of collective groans, let's talk about the video game. Let's talk about the potential for the video game industry this week. There's a lot of announcements coming this week. They can be good, or they can probably elicit a collective groan. We'll see what happens. But the two that are big on the docket for this week and that we will talk more about next week, SEGA has teased an announcement, and this is really the one that could be really unleash the collective groan, because people are like, is it a Dreamcast Mini? Is it a new game? Is it a franchise that no one cares about? We don't know. With SEGA, there's a huge gamut you could run with that that could get people excited, or the fact that they're teasing it could only set them up possibly for failure, because again, people start thinking about what they want and might not necessarily get that.
Exactly.
Of course. Yeah, exactly. Of course, also this week, the PlayStation 5 is set to finally be revealed. Yeah. We are set to finally see it. Sony has promised that the pandemic and the events going around in the world have not affected their production lines.
Bullshit.
And
I'm sorry.
And that the PS5 is set to release on time, probably this holiday season.
Yes.
We will see.
It's just a controller. That's it.
Yeah.
Surprise! You can download everything to your controller. How do you hook it up to the TV? We'll be right back. We have to...
Guys, we need to keep working.
Guys, we need a box for this thing. What about the Xbox X? Shut up.
Yeah, so a couple of big things in the game front this week could potentially be coming, but we will see, and we will have full analysis next week on the show. But we wanted to obviously mark that on your guys' calendars to definitely keep an eye out.
Ray, I got to put you on the spot. I mean, like it's and nobody should hold this against you if you don't guess right. But what do you think Sega's doing? I mean, it can't be a system. I mean, it can't be.
It's not a system.
Yeah, like
But
what do you think they're teasing? Because they made a big deal out of this. This wasn't like a normal Sega thing.
Yeah, this could be, again, it could run the gamut. It could be anything. The rumors of the Dreamcast Mini could be true, or like a Sega Saturn Mini to make it Mini to put on the tails of the NES Classic and the Super Nintendo Classic. And
I don't want that.
I don't want that either, and I think that's also not realistic. But I'm not ruling it out because we don't know. There's also rumors of a new Sonic game. There's rumors of bringing back other classic Sega franchises.
But I mean, they said it's a huge like they said it like there's a huge announcement, right? Like a new Sonic game is just not a huge announcement, is it?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so either. Yeah. But that's the thing is I don't know unless it's something like PlayStation exclusive, like a new franchise maybe that's exclusive to the PS5 as a launch title. Like that would be a huge that could be a big enough announcement to warrant this kind of hype.
It better be big.
I mean, I've also heard people say it's something like a super Japanese like Shin Megami Tensei. I can't even say it. We just call it SMT for short because I can't say it.
No one's gonna know if you're wrong, anyways.
Right. So, which would make about 1% of the gaming population very happy, but nobody else would care. So I mean, it's I don't know. I really don't know. But my guess, this is why I said even in chat that in the group, in our Facebook group, that whatever it is, we're probably going to be disappointed by it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think about the world too. Like, is there anything they could do with the current state of the world that would excite people, like a gaming championship or something with sports? I mean, because Sega Sports has been gone for a long time.
I was gonna say something Sega Sports related might be interesting.
Yeah. Sega. So they just Sega, not Sega. Then it was Sega.
Yeah.
And now it's just.
Yeah. Womp womp. Womp. So I mean, we'll see. It could be, like I said, the chances that this is going to live up to the hype are actually very slim, in my opinion. But
mainly because we can't think of anything that would live up to the hype. I'm even just thinking outside the box here, because like a new console's not a good idea.
No. No.
Right? I mean, I'm thinking maybe they're gonna say something like the entire Sega Genesis and 32X library is coming to the Switch or something like that.
Yeah, I mean? That could be real. That would be a pretty big deal to be that like everything. Everything from 32 bits on is part of the Switch.
You like
online
Vector Man?
Library.
Here's Vector Man.
Yeah. Vector
like
Man,
Gold
Ranger
X,
the original Mortal Kombat, like a lot of stuff could come and like be huge, but
that happen. I mean, actually, okay, this would be huge news for me. If it's that plus Dreamcast, if the whole Sega library through Dreamcast available, that would be pretty nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna have my hopes and dreams destroyed because that won't be it.
That's what I'm saying. Don't get your hopes up because you don't know. I know. Yeah. But yeah, so big game stuff coming down the pike. We will have more on that next week. Finally.
So comment below with what crazy ideas you think Sega's going to come out with this week. While I interrupt Ray for the 10th time in the show, none of these make his top 10 lists of worst sports moments ever, but it does make a list of weird Geeks Who Like Sports moments. I'm Lee Elias. Back to you, Ray.
Yes. So now we're going to wrap up the show with a couple more questions of the week. We've got some good ones. The first one we'll kick off with is superhero related. This one I saw online, which I thought was crazy. What is the craziest superhero alternative that you've ever seen? So like there's a lot of alternate superheroes from, like, obviously you have like the Crime Syndicate on Earth 3. You have a lot of different Spider-Man. You have the armored Spider-Man from a different universe. You have the Spider-Man with six arms from a different universe. The reason why I keep mentioning Spider-Man is the one I'm going to mention is one I just discovered this weekend, which is absolutely insane. It's Spider-Man from the Earth 11580. So the original, our regular Spider-Man is from Earth 616. This is from 11580, and he's called Spider's Man. And it's because so Peter Parker, while visiting Horizon Labs with Gwen Stacy, falls into a gene splicing spider experiment, and the spiders in the experiment consume him whole. They eat him.
Ooh,
and
delicious.
the spiders get his consciousness and decide to form into a human form and become a superhero. So when he's fighting the goblin family of this universe, because it's an actual family in the universe, his suit gets cut open, and the goblins freak out as all the spiders leak out and try to consume them because they're carnivorous spiders in the form of a man. And and when Gwen Stacy finds this out, that they have his consciousness, she works to actually save him, and he's like, no, Peter Parker is gone. We are just a monster now. And they go out and they continue to eat bad guys as a carnivorous, sentient swarm of spiders. So Spiders Man from 11/5/80 is my craziest superhero alternative.
I'm glad they didn't lead with that one.
Yeah.
I mean, although I would have given the movie Arachnophobia a run for its money.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was that was a crazy Spider-Man I found. Didn't see that one coming.
I have notes on mine. It's funny because this has nothing to do with it, Ray, but I somehow wrote this. I wrote on my notes here, Martha is dead. And I'm looking at this now. I really don't know why I did that, but I wrote Martha is dead. Why did you say that name? All right, listen. Mine's from the DCU or DC Universe, and in a alternate reality or another dimension, in the Wayne family, after they leave the theater, Bruce is actually the one that gets killed by the mugger, thus thrusting Thomas Wayne, his father, into becoming Batman. Now, speaking before the episode, Ray actually told me this, that Martha Wayne, who is alive, becomes the Joker in this universe. All right. And Thomas Wayne goes around trying to avenge his son. Now, what's awesome about this, why it's crazy, is he's not a normal Batman. This version of Batman is very gruff, number one.
Yeah, the Flashpoint Batman.
Yeah, he loves guns. He uses guns. He has no problem killing anybody, right? And the way this is a spoiler if you want to read it, but it's still going to read it. It's awesome anyway. The way he resolves this problem is by destroying his entire reality. He lets it be destroyed so that his son can be alive in another reality. He destroys
our main reality. Yeah.
Yeah, which it's an incredible arc. I believe Teen Titans did it. It was done in a cartoon form, but I can't remember which show did it. I believe it was Teen Titans did an episodic thing with this, with them finding him in another dimension, because he's working. It's really good, yeah, because I know it's Robin that has to go find him. And he's saying Batman would never use a gun. He's, that's not Batman. That's Thomas Wayne. You know, right. I will find that. I will bring that and I'll post it on the Facebook group. But yeah, that it's if you think Batman's dark now, this was 10 times darker. And by the way, way cooler.
Yeah, Thomas Wayne. I mean, it's a crazy universe that he's in. I will say this of the universe because we've seen glimpses into it in other adventures and other comics and other stories. I do think that the Flashpoint Batman is the coolest part of that universe. Although they do also find supposedly a Superman who basically he's found by the government and they keep him under wraps at like an Area 51. So he never becomes the Superman that we know him to be because he's deprived of sunlight. Until finally, I believe, if I remember correctly, until Thomas Wayne finds him, busts him out in this one story arc and stuff, and then he becomes kind of like he starts to become like Superman, but he's obviously a lot darker because of the years of abuse that he's under, because he was not found by a loving family in Kansas. So yeah, let us know your craziest takes, your favorite crazy takes on superheroes below. And finally, our last.
Whoa. Sorry, I wouldn't be a show if I didn't interrupt you, because there's one more crazy comic book Batman person I need to say. I'm just gonna say the name. I'm gonna let Ray tell people about it, because I love saying this name around Ray. He has no idea what I'm about to say. But he introduced me to this character, and it's a fun name to say. And Ray, you have 30 seconds to a minute to describe this character from Red Sun, Batmansky.
Oh, Batmansky.
Batmansky, Red Sun.
Well, yeah. So Batmansky is basically so from Superman Red Sun, which is of course where Superman is found by the Soviets in much a similar, again, a different alternate universe. And Batmansky is, well, I mean, he's the Russian counterpart to this, and he's basically fighting against Batmansky and the Soviets and the communists He's fighting for freedom. He's basically a freedom fighter. Yeah, he's Batmansky, and he has he has like that the Russian hat on instead of the bat hat.
He has the Russian cold hat on, and it's amazing. And you should look up right now wherever you are on your phone, Batmansky, because we're not making any of this stuff up.
No,
this is all real.
This is all
real. In fact, while you're on the next one, I'm looking up Spider-Man.
Yeah, look up Spider-Man's Earth 11580 Spider-Man. But yeah, so now our final question of the day. I saw this, which was really cool. What is the best franchise with best 2 movies of a franchise, right? So like not the franchise as a whole, right? But the best like first 2 movies. So you might be able to say Alien because of the first 2 movies, or Terminator because of the first 2 movies, or Ghostbusters. You know, there's a few of them out there. So we want to know what your favorite first 2 movies of a franchise are, because you can say Gremlins even, although I wouldn't. But you know, like there's any franchise that has multiple movies. But what is the favorite? Back to the Future. Like there's a lot. I think that would probably be Lee's vote.
No, it's not. It's not. That would not make my list for this.
Oh, okay. So what? So for me, I always go. I would obviously I always go to Ghostbusters for me personally. But what? And then probably actually, and then Michael. And then very closely behind is the Michael Keaton Batman. That's really that's tough. I think unfortunately, again see, this is hard because the third and fourth movies really soured at me on that franchise so much. But if we're just taking the first 2,
no, that's what this is. It's just the first 2.
All right, so then Batman Returns, and then Ghostbusters.
I think Batman and Ghostbusters are actually really excellent answers. Yeah, I'm sorry, and the other one you said, right? The reason why Back to the Future doesn't make the list is because that's a trilogy. That is a trilogy. All right, that you can't do 2 without the third one. You would go nuts, right? With Batman Returns, you could stop there and be all right. With Ghostbusters 2, you could stop there and be all right because we were.
Yeah.
What was the other one you said?
I mean, there was Terminator.
Terminator, absolutely, you could stop after the second one. We were all fine with the way that ended.
Yeah.
It was an unbelievably great ending.
Yeah.
And you made 4 movies since then, and none of them ended well. All right. So I got a couple few. I got a few answers here. Honorable mention would be Spider-Man, Superman 1 and 2.
That's a good one.
Okay.
Yep.
Above that is Spider-Man 1 and 2 with Tobey Maguire.
The Tobey Maguire one, yeah.
Spider-Man 2 is still on many of our lists for best superhero movie of all time.
Agreed. Yep.
Okay, it's a top 5, I think, no matter, even with the whole MCU. Spider-Man 2.
Oh yeah, against Doc Ock. I mean, Alfred Molina's Doc Ock is still tremendous.
That was one of the greatest superhero movies of all time. So Spider-Man 1 and 2. Like I said, Back to the Future doesn't make my list. I had another one and it's escaping me at the moment. Like Indiana Jones doesn't work there because the third Indiana Jones was the best one.
Oh, agreed. Yeah, no, Temple of Doom is meh. Temple of Doom is the worst of the 3.
Yeah,
Sorry.
but I mean, no, okay. So Temple of Doom is not the worst.
Well, of the 3 of the original trilogy, what I'm saying, the original trilogy. I completely forgot that Crystal Skull even existed.
Like this might be crazy, but Star Wars and Empire, that was a pretty good 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna sit here and tell you like I would have always wondered, but if I mean it's tough. It's because you need an ending to that story, right? It didn't have a definitive ending. It's just back before they made it. Here's one for you, right? I just remember the one I was going to talk about. This is going to be a little controversial for people. The Matrix 1 and 2 until the last 10 minutes of the second film.
That's fair.
Okay, because what happens and again, these movies are starting to become a little dated, but they still kind of work.
The first one for sure still works.
First one's great, all right? Yeah. And the second one was really great. And in the last 10 minutes, I don't care if this is a spoiler because I'm actually saving you time. In the last 10 minutes of the second movie, they kind of explain, although backhanded, that like, oh, the first 2 movies didn't matter. Come watch the third movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I didn't. They probably could have ended that.
Yeah, you destroyed the universe, the whole universe.
I mean, they probably could have found an ending there for the whole thing if they really wanted to.
Yeah.
But now we're getting Matrix 4, so we'll see what happens there. I really loved the Matrix 1 and 2. I really did until the architect kind of you are the 10th systemic anomaly, ergo vis-a-vis concordantly, we must have a third movie. And I was like, bastards. Right? Nothing you saw in this movie makes sense because it has happened before. I'm like, that's not what I need to hear, man.
Yeah.
Now, if they really want to save the day, and I want to say this, I will have so much respect if they do this, and they won't. But I will
remake the
so...
first one.
No. You'll like this, okay? If they somehow can merge it that John Wick is actually Neo.
Yeah.
Right? Because it has a lot of the same characters, and it's basically the same story. It's exactly the same story. If they can somehow, because here's the thing, John Wick 4 and The Matrix 4 come out the same weekend.
And then you just find out they're actually just the same movie.
Yeah, if this was just some huge thing where it's like, guess what? John Wick is Neo, and this is him being reincarnated. I'd be like, yes! I would have no issue with that, dude. I'd be like, that is ambitious as hell, and that's amazing. And then we find out that Bill and Ted 3 is part of it as well, which is coming out soon.
We're all just in Keanu Reeves' universe. That's what it is.
Well, whoa. I mean, yeah. So this is, people keep asking me if I'm back. Well, yeah, I think I'm back. Before you go to close, let's close the next thing we're doing.
Yes.
Okay. Speaking of close, I want to give a shout out to my t-shirt.
Yes.
I'll let you do it because you have to model it here. So Ray, but by the way, everybody, thank you for listening. Stay safe out there because Ray's going to close after this. Thank you for allowing us to be a distraction for you with everything that's going on. We hope we can continue to be that for you. No matter what, stay safe and let's be kind to each other.
So Lee is wearing a Be Kind shirt that represents, of course, the Pop Culture Hero Coalition and our good friend Chase Masterson. You can go to popculturehero.org and get your own to help support this amazing organization. And our good friend Chase Masterson will be on later this week in our next episode of Geeks Who Like Sports, our next leaderboard interview. So that is a fantastic tease there, Lee, as we get ready to close.
As we close.
Yeah.
Dad joke!
And Lee is a dad, so we'll let him get away with it. So there we go. So yes, be sure to stay tuned for that special episode later this week. Again, special thanks to Chase for coming on the show. We really look forward to what you guys taking and listen to that and seeing what you and just seeing it. It was a really great conversation we had with her, and it's definitely something that I think is needed in these days and times right now. But for Lee, I am Ray. This has been episode 59 of Geeks Who Like Sports. Be sure to follow the Facebook group. Be sure to listen to us wherever you hear podcasts. Join the Facebook group. You can email us, Ray or Lee, at geekswholikesports.com. Thanks again for listening, everybody. We hope you have a great week, and we will talk to you in a few days.